All righty, here we are. We are live. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Can you guys hear me okay out there? I want to make sure everybody in the stream can hear me okay, because I want to make sure the audio is good. Thank you for tuning in for Blockchain Center's Thursdays on the Block. And today I am being joined by Nick Saponaro and Xenia. Is it V or is it 5? It's V, now that I see that. And she is the co-founder of It Takes Two. And we were going to be doing a deep tech dive into Divi. And I found out we were going to be doing this topic this morning, and at first I wasn't sure what we were going to be talking about because Anna didn't let me know anything last night. And I woke up and I had an awesome surprise because Divi is actually one of my favorite cryptocurrency projects. So I will go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Rice. I am the host of Rice Crypto on the YouTube channel and library, also the host of Rice Radio, an exclusive audio podcast. And like as I said, I'm joined by Nick and Xenia, and I'm going to go ahead and let Xenia introduce herself. And after she's done, Nick can go ahead and introduce himself, and we'll kind of get this discussion rolling.
Thank you so much, Chris. My name is Xenia, and I'm a co-host of Value Tokenized podcast and a co-founder of It Takes Two content marketing and a PR firm focused on fintech and blockchain space. I'm very happy to be here as your co-host today and hope to ask Nick some questions that will help us truly to get a deep dive into the Divi project.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Saponaro. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here. Obviously, Rice and I have become friends over the past year or so, and I'm, of course, the Chief Information Officer of the Divi project. I'm excited to talk about what that means here today. I'll kind of leave it at that, so I don't give too much away. But yeah, let's take it away. Yeah.
It's going to be good. And like you said, Nick, I mean, I've had the opportunity of working with, interviewing both you and Jeff McCabe, who is the CEO of Divi. Got to learn a lot about the company, got to learn about you guys as individuals, kind of get an idea of like what Divi 2.0 has coming anytime. And that's something I'd like to talk to you a little bit about. So Xenia, what do you know about Divi?
What I know is that I'm personally recently became interested in tools that let more people access crypto and really facilitate mass adoption. And that's why what Divi is doing with the wallet, and also how they enable more people to actually make money on crypto by allowing people to stake even if they do not have like $500,000, like you're required to do it with Masternode and Dash, for example. I think these are very interesting things because I'm very passionate about adoption myself, and that's why we were trying to cover more and speakers in blockchain space on our own show. So I think this is one of the main things for me.
Okay, awesome. Now, is It Takes Two? Is that your show that you're talking about?
This is kind of what was born out of it, because we started Value Tokenized as a podcast about digital securities, because as the space evolved, we really saw the lack of information. So right now we're really broadening our focus as we want to cover more, because digital security space, like there is no STO like people expected there to be. And so that's why we are getting into like broader focus. And yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And I guess, Nick, for people who are watching that might be unfamiliar, I don't want to rehash a lot of things. I mean, I do want to let people know that on my channel, there is a playlist that I've created where you can check out those previous interviews. And I just had Nick on a couple weeks ago. So, but for people who are unfamiliar with what Divi is, how would you explain the Divi project and kind of an elevator pitch to somebody who's unaware?
Yeah, Divi, it's really the philosophy of creating a cryptocurrency ecosystem that enables, like Xenia said, anyone to access this incredible financial opportunity that we have all come to be aware of. We started by creating what is still pretty much the easiest way to start up a masternode or staking node within our desktop client. And with the click of a button, you can actually just begin earning cryptocurrency right out of the gate. From that point, we used that sort of as a vehicle to build our network to be secure, decentralized, and that's been an incredible initiative over the past 2 years. But moving forward, the goal is to hybridize the actual finance ecosystem. So we have cryptocurrency, but in 2019, we made a large investment in a fintech operation that gives us all the licensure to enable people to access all the basically banking functions, IBANs, debit cards, and things of that nature. And all that stuff is starting to come together now.
And that's what I'm really excited about. I mean, the whole idea that you guys have purchased this fintech company, and because I mean, I've been doing a dive into this myself. I like the ideas of you're having a mobile wallet version of what you have for the desktop that's going to be coming out. And in addition to that, you're going to be offering, in addition to the fintech solution, which will offer people a credit card so that they can utilize those functions. But you're also going to have the atomic swap function inside the wallet where with your OneClick masternode or your staking, any rewards that you might get if you don't want to keep the Divi, you can in turn swap it out. I know that you announced that you're going to be having Bitcoin and Litecoin initially. So that gives people that opportunity. I know that you talked about the future of stable coins being utilized on it within the wallet that would also have that atomic swap function, which the whole idea of Divi making crypto easy, I think is something that more companies and projects should be striving for, because that is the one thing that even me being in the space for a couple of years, there's still some things that I still have a really hard time with. And it shouldn't even be that way. So I think that the idea of making Cryptocentral is one of the most beneficial things that we can do to try to help with mainstream adoption. What do you think about that, Xenia?
I think you actually touched upon like several really interesting points here. And maybe like I will first jump into asking Nick about their new venture fund that they just launched, because you mentioned like some previous investments, and I'm really excited to learn more about like your further initiatives in this space. Yeah, and then we'll go back to what you just said.
Okay.
Yes. So, it's true. We talk a lot about adoption, but in reality, we should be talking about adaptation, right? It shouldn't be mass adoption. You shouldn't have to force people to adopt something. It should adapt to their everyday life. And so you have to build things that are basically something that they're already familiar with and slowly transition them into this amazing thing we call cryptocurrency, right? So that's basically what we're trying to do. And the venture fund is a big initiative and a step towards that. So we did announce last Friday that we secured $1 million of investment, and there's more coming through the door every day. People were super interested after we announced this because it's still in a phase where individuals can actually invest in this opportunity. The fund essentially is created to invest in individuals or companies or projects that want to build use cases for Divi and other cryptocurrencies. One of the requirements and criteria for getting any investment from the Divi Venture Fund is that it has to be multi-coin. So it of course is there to implement new use cases for Divi, but it has to also work with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever you want to choose. It can't just be a singular use case, and it has to leverage our on-ramps. So we have, of course, our fintech operation, which allows us to integrate with the traditional finance world. So we can offer people a way to purchase and sell cryptocurrency for US dollars or whatever local fiat currency that they use. That's another aspect of getting a piece of the funding. It's a huge, in my opinion, it's a huge step towards adaptation because it allows us to expand our resources in a way that we wouldn't be able to as a singular project.
And that makes a lot of sense. This is actually, I mean, you guys have so much happening in the space, moves so fast that I was actually unaware of this. I seen Ken Bozak posting something yesterday as if Ben Simshi told him something that was secret that he couldn't say to anybody. And I don't even know what that something secret is. And I don't think it's what you guys are talking about with this past week. So there's so much happening that I wasn't even aware of this venture fund. That's an awesome idea that you guys have to help propel the whole space in general.
Yeah, we've been working on it for basically the better part of this year, actually. It was an idea that we kind of were just workshopping initially, but we have people that are, set up to run it now. And actually it's more like an accelerator, so to speak. And it's nice because we're not just giving somebody money and then hoping that they build something cool. They can leverage all our licensure because we'll actually own a piece of their organization, as well as, I lost my train of thought. But yeah.
Well, so I mean, if somebody wanted to build, when you say multi-coin, basically projects that have multi-coin, if somebody wanted to build a social media project, but it would have to use more than one coin in order to get funding through this particular mechanism?
Exactly. And well, so the other thing I was going to say, the train came back, was we'll leverage our marketing resources as well. So a lot of grants and funds just give you money and say, I hope you do well, you know. But I think it's really important to support projects, especially in this space where it's in its nascency and people don't really necessarily have all of the resources that they need to succeed in this landscape because it's so ever changing and it changes every day. Every day you wake up and something's different. So I think it's really important that we support the projects, not just throw money at them, you know.
Well, and since you said that too, yeah, can you kind of give people an idea how long you and Jeff and crew have been at this? Because it's not an overnight thing. Divi didn't just come into existence a month or two ago.
Yeah, we a lot of people say we're like the industry skunkworks project because so few people know about us, but we've been around for a long time.
Right.
You know, I started with Divi at its inception 3 years ago, and we launched our blockchain in September of 2018. And we've been rolling ever since, you know, 100% uptime, no issues. The network is incredibly secure against 51% attacks. It's actually a really robust ecosystem already, even though we haven't even gotten to the point where a lot of the things that we're building are out and available in production. So yeah, three years now.
That's a long time. I mean, it just shows how much work has gone into this, that it's not just something that, and a lot of the projects I think today that are starting to do something, that are starting to make a little bit of waves, or have kind of been in that boat. I mean, and it shows longevity. It shows that you guys have been in for this and building and building and building and just moving your spot up on the coin market cap, being known. So it's a great thing.
You have to be, I feel like organic growth is the best path forward, even though it's not always fun. We don't ride hype trains necessarily all the time. You know, sometimes we do just by association, but we're never trying to ride a hype train necessarily. And that's been a challenge for community members that, you know, are looking for the Lambos and the instant turnarounds on profits. But the people who have been with us for a long time are incredibly happy.
It looks like hype will find you. And actually, I have a question about this, if I can jump in. When I was sharing this today with my network that I'm participating in this panel, I actually got a question from somebody asking, is Divi DeFi? And this is a very hype word now, but it seems like there are a lot of principles that you're using from decentralized finance, but there are some structural differences, obviously. And maybe I think it will help some of our viewers understand more if you kind of like elaborate on this.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked, because we're not technically DeFi. You know, we're not an Ethereum token. We do have a custom blockchain. That said, as you said, you know, some of our philosophies and fundamental values do align with DeFi. But recently we started a partnership with a company called Zap, or a project called Zap, which is a decentralized oracle. Run by Nick Spanos. Awesome project if you haven't checked it out.
Nick Spanos started the blockchain center. So, I mean, it just kind of ties back everything around. So
it all connects. So they're doing a wrapped Divi initiative where they're actually creating an e-Divi, they call it, or an X-Divi, whatever it'll end up being, where they basically make a one-to-one Divi on the Ethereum blockchain. Through this, we'll be able to, of course, access all the DeFi, Uniswap, and you know, lending protocols and all the fun stuff that's happening right now. But probably the coolest thing, in my mind at least, is the cross-chain staking. So they have this sort of methodology where you'll set up a staking pool for Divi, and all of the Divi that's staked and all the stakes that are won actually create new Divi on the Ethereum blockchain. So you can go and use that and do whatever you want to do with it. So it's like earning cryptocurrency twice almost, in a way.
Now, how does that affect the supply of Divi, though? Is that an inflationary event then?
No, it's the same. It's the same inflation rate that would normally occur on the Divi blockchain, because they only create as many e-Divi as exist in that staking pool. So it's not even one-to-one with all of the Divi in the ecosystem. But what's cool is when you leave e-Divi, when you sell your e-Divi, or you want to come back to the real Divi ecosystem, it burns the e-Divi. So it's always maintaining its sort of deflationary mentality,
and its integrity too. So that way, when it swaps from one to one, I get that, and because that's been one of my biggest concerns was how do you not have an inflationary event where new coins are coming out and it
That's
actually affects your max supply. And I think that's an important thing, especially when you're kind of using a max supply as one of your sell points, like something like Bitcoin. If Bitcoin ever got to be more than 21 million, I think it'd piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, that is a huge fundamental for them.
And that's the idea. So if people are unfamiliar, the idea with what you explained with the wrapped Divi using Zap and being on the Ethereum blockchain would be essentially what like something like Ren BTC and all these other different companies are doing with wrapping Bitcoin. And when we talked about this, Nick, you actually are seeing more Bitcoin being utilized on the Ethereum blockchain than actually on the Lightning Network. So
it's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers.
It's crazy to think that Ethereum could have been that second layer sidechain solution in a sense.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I feel like that's what Vitalik kind of had in mind, sort of an improvement that could be used interoperably, but that's a different conversation.
But it's very interesting. I like the fact that you guys are working with interoperability and cross-chain implementation and trying to bring about growth for other projects as well. That's an extremely important thing, I think. A collaboration, as I told you so much this year, I think is going to be key in the future, and now and in the future more.
I agree, 100%.
And to make sure that I understand the cross-chain part, I was following what Polkadot was doing. And just to make sure, like because it seems like it's a very important part, like in general, like the future of crypto, to enable like cooperation and interoperability between different blockchains. So maybe how does like what Polkadot does, how does it tie into what you're doing or you're enabling to do with partnerships like Zap? Just for me to understand, because I don't know like all the technical details.
So we're friends with a lot of the guys from Polkadot as well, and we've discussed similar things with them as well. Nothing official, of course. So yeah, I mean, we want to do this on multiple chains. You know, there's no reason. Dragon Chain is working on something similar. You know, hopefully we can work with Polkadot in the future. I want to see Divi everywhere. You know, I feel like if we want Divi to adapt to people's lives, it needs to be in the things that they're already using. And a lot of people use Ethereum. A lot of people will end up using Dot and Polkadot, you know? So it's important, as Rice said, it's really important not to limit. So many projects are just like in this walled garden, and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the future is definitely cross-chain and interoperability. I mean, that it makes no sense to have all these separate blockchains that don't have any communication with each other. Because from the outside perspective of somebody who doesn't know anything about blockchain, they hear about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then blockchain. They think it's just one big blockchain. And everybody shares this space, but it's completely separate entities, and there's no communication between them. And that's where things like atomic swaps and oracles and these kind of technologies come into play that allow for that interoperability. I mean, the idea of a atomic swap, that was very revolutionary when you think about that when it came out, because it was allowing for a peer-to-peer exchange that I have Bitcoin and you have Ethereum, and we can make a swap and it stays on chain correctly, and it's just a trade of basically key information. And that seamless experience added in the DEXs and having the fintech solution with mobile wallets. I mean, this stuff is going to make it very user friendly. And then especially when you see things like Visa and MasterCard now are jumping more into the game. And now in the United States, which has probably made it a little bit easier to do what you're doing, the United States has made it legal to custody crypto in the banks. So they're they're giving a lot more legitimacy to what cryptocurrency is doing. And I think it's only going to help us in the long run. So I like what you guys are doing. And I know you guys do not like giving any deadlines or dates, but are we anywhere close to 2.0 launching that mobile application and all that?
Yeah, you know, I talked about this a little bit on my live stream last Friday, and you know, we are close. I thought we were a little closer. You know, at the beginning of the year, we had a roadmap, and it seemed like it was on track. But of course, everything that's happened this year, and you just can't avoid all of the sort of ripple effect from Corona. We were doing okay, but you know, kids started coming home, childcare. Anyway, I don't want to put all the blame on that, but it did affect us. So we're probably a couple months behind, but it is really close. I'm pretty confident that it'll come out this year.
I'm glad to hear that. Xenia, like, do you have any questions based off the things that we've been talking about?
Actually, yes, I do have one question. It seems to me that right now there is a general trend of one-click node hosting as a tool to provide access in general, like to crypto. For example, like projects like Infura, the project behind technology behind MetaMask, for example. And I know that Anchor is what they're doing is that they're providing like blockchain APIs and essentially host nodes for projects for developers, so they don't have to actually take on the expenses that are normally required to develop, to become validator, to stake. And this is very interesting because this is an essential part of your doing. This is a different angle, but still it seems to be that this is a massive trend. And this is like one of the keys, like coming back to adoption. It's one of the big things that is required to actually take us where we want to come as an industry. It's not kind of even a question, it's a little bit of a statement, I would say.
Well, it's true. I always like to say like Infura is subsidizing Ethereum because you basically can't develop as a smart contract developer without something like that. So there's basically a couple of different sort of philosophies and methodologies for how hosted nodes are set up. You have basically, a custodial almost situation where you're just accessing a node that's hosted and maybe you're just signing the transactions or what have you. You have hosting pools, of course, which are totally centralized. You're basically just sending your funds there and hoping that that it doesn't crumble. And there's a couple of other implementations, but we are of the philosophy that it should always be as decentralized as humanly possible. So our Mochi, which is our masternode one-click cloud installer, is basically a decentralized way to deploy a masternode. The funds never leave your wallet. The keys never leave your wallet. But we actually patented recently, we have a patent pending on what we call Mochi 2.0, which is basically a fundamental change to how this works. So we can actually set up masternodes in the cloud or wherever you want, and the nodes themselves can become hosts of other nodes. So the ultimate goal is to stop relying on any centralized service like DigitalOcean, AWS, or whatever, but actually just having people host their nodes on their Raspberry Pi or whatever it is, and actually start hosting other people's nodes. It's a really cool concept, and I'm probably not explaining it the best I could, but that's one way that we're decentralizing node hosting. And recently we went into testing with another piece of technology called staking vaults, which is really cool. It basically allows you to trustlessly set up a staking pool where maybe you're running the full staking node, and then much like a master node, you just allocate the funds locally, and you sign the transaction, and the funds basically pool in the staking node. But the staking node itself has no ability to sign outward transactions, so it's completely secure as far as like the funds go, and the funds are actually never in the node itself. I hope that makes sense. I know I kind of explained that quickly.
It gives me an idea, but I would definitely have to sit down with you and get a better explanation for it. But I mean, you've been like, with all the stuff that you've been doing this year with this project, I mean, I don't blame you for not being able to get specifics about something very technical, right?
Some of this stuff's so new too that I'm still figuring out how to exactly explain it to everyone. But yeah, we're getting there.
I'm really excited. The everything that you guys are doing, I think, is just really awesome. And I mean, aside from the things that we've already mentioned and touched on, is there, and not that we're wrapping up now, but is there anything that you want to highlight that we haven't discussed, or any new partnerships or anything like that that maybe is gone under the radar that you want to put a little bit more attention to?
I mean, the Zap partnership is probably one of the biggest things going right now. We're focusing a lot of attention and resources on that, especially because there's a lot of crossover with the blockchain center. It's huge, not just for us. We're talking about multi-coin. We're talking about interoperability. The concept that we're building with them will enable other staking coins to access the same thing. So, Dash, or I guess Dash isn't staking, but Pivx, or, whichever staking coin you want to say, Tezos, I think, is staking, could also wrap their coin in the exact same way. It'll be open source. And this enables like a huge interoperability event in crypto. And I feel like it's kind of understated right now. And as it starts to come into fruition, it'll be much more clear. But it's like one of the most exciting things for me. I know I don't sound super excited. I've been working all day, but
right. No, it's
I'm
been
really
a long
excited.
day. I mean, it's 8 o'clock at night for us on the East Coast. So, and later in the day for you on the West Coast. So I completely feel you. That's how I felt last Thursday. Last Thursday when I hosted, I'd done a live stream and 2 interviews all, like during the day, and then I had to do the live stream at night, and I really wasn't feeling it, but it went really well. It was great.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say, is the company, the Divi Labs is our for-profit entity. And we, of course, have the nonprofit foundation, Divi Project, or Divi Foundation. And Divi Labs has matured in a major way, where we just hired a CFO, COO, CMO. We have a CTO now. All of the basically executive team is onboarded now. We even have like a senior product owner, and the whole dev team has really come together. So I'm just like really excited. It's not a partnership or anything crazy. But it's really exciting to see something that you built start to mature.
Flesh out.
Yeah, it's like
putting
it's like
skin on the skeleton. Yeah, watching your kid grow. That's a good way. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So that's another thing I'm pretty excited about right now. I feel like really confident because I have all these resources now, where all these jobs that I was doing are now being done by people that are way better at them,
Well, all you guys were wearing a lot of hats for quite some time. So, I mean, you deserve to be able to focus on your job specifically and what you were brought in to do. Even Jeff. I mean, Jeff's been having to play a lot of different roles as well. And it'd be great just to let Jeff focus on being a CEO.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. And I think that would make for a stronger Divi overall, because then it allows you not to have to water down what you guys are doing by dividing your time in all these different avenues. And now now each one of you can focus on the things that you need to focus. So I think that's a very promising thing for the future at Divi.
I agree. Thanks, man.
Definitely.
So Xenia, do you have any thoughts or anything that you want to ask Nick? I'm trying to see if anybody has any questions in the audience as well. So if Crazy Cool asked if you are global, and I know that Divi is available internationally. Most cryptocurrencies, for the most part, are. The investment part, if you're dealing with an ICO or an IEO and you had to be an accredited investor, those would be the only things I think that would prevent anyone from getting involved in a cryptocurrency, unless we're talking about like a state issued or a central bank issued cryptocurrency. Right. That might be limited by region, but region shouldn't come into play, Mr. Crazy Cool. But I do appreciate the question. Crypto Phoenix asked, and I know what the answer is going to be, but any deadline for the wrap Divi with Zap?
Well, we just have gotten finished with the first draft of the light paper, and it looks fantastic. So our blockchain devs are all reviewing that right now, making edits and things like that. Some of the work has been started on like a very, very basic level. But now we have like a really good comprehensive understanding of how it'll work. I don't really know how long it's going to take. Their guys at Zap are fantastic. I mean, just incredible developers. So I know that they said that the majority of the time will be for testing, not so much for development. So that's all I know right now.
Okay. I definitely need to do an interview with Nick Spanos. I'll talk to Anna about that. Because I would like to get a little bit more information about what Zap's been doing. I met, I can't remember Adam, I think is his name, that lives down in Florida that does work with Zap.
I think that's his name too. Jeff's been point of contact with, I think it's Adam. I think you're right. He's mostly been POC for them.
But yeah, I definitely want to be trying. I want to try to learn a little bit more about what Zap is all about. And for me, because I've been looking at so many projects, it's easier for me a lot of times just to kind of have a conversation with somebody to be able to learn a lot more. And then it gives everybody that learning experience as well. And I mean, I'm still learning about what Divi is all about, but for the most part, I've got a good generalization. I still would like to know this news that Ken Bozak is like trying to tease people about. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about, and I know what it is. I don't have approval to talk about what it is yet. I know,
because he seems really excited.
Like, don't say anything. But it is really exciting. It'll involve a lot of people, and it'll be a great initiative. But yeah, that's all I can say right now.
Well, if anybody is a fan of Ken Bozak. He says, this was posted 21 hours ago on his Facebook channel. If you don't have a bag of Divi, you are doing the whole diversify your portfolio bro thing wrong. So
I love
there
Ken,
you go.
That's a good way,
He grew
nice
up
way
like
to put it.
5 minutes from me. He's awesome. He's so funny, man.
He's actually tonight. I don't know what you guys are doing, but he's going to be the guest for Crypto Stash and Gaston Cruz. They have Bit Active, their meetup that they do. It's online, so he's going to be involved with that. So I think that starts at 7 or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it might be 8 o'clock p.m. But it's on the Bit Active website if people want to check that out. I just thought that was kind of cool that Ken was going to be doing that. Maybe I have to give him a call and find out what the hell, so I know, or I'll have to like ask you to tell me on the down low.
Yeah, it's cool.
I can see we have another question, by the way, from the audience. Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all.
It's a question: if you have plans for Divi in Latin America?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you have any plans for Divi in Latin America?
Yes, definitely. So one of our initiatives right now is and this is available right now. You can go check it out. It's called Divi Go, which is a WhatsApp client for Divi. So you can actually transact with Divi in your wallet. And that's actually being improved every day. It has almost 1,000 users already. And that's one way that we're accessing sort of people who don't have a desktop client or desktop computer and things like that. But yeah, with the mobile wallet coming out, that's another initiative for adaptation, not adoption. Definitely, yeah. Our company's actually based in Costa Rica, which is, Central America. So we definitely have a focus on Latin America, 100%.
I do know Jeff, even outside of Divi, does a lot in his community. So
he does, yeah, very philanthropic, and he's really involved in like the real estate industry in his area, and we're building some like digital nomad spaces and stuff down there right now. So yeah, definitely involved there.
Jeff McCabe too. I'm sorry, I was gonna say Jeff McCabe is he's definitely an interesting guy when it comes to being. I know his past, and I know like a lot of the things he's done, and from being on the technical end, and then being like a jewelry designer, and then the philanthropy part and the family man. He's an interesting character, but I think his heart is definitely in the right place. And I'd like to see more CEOs kind of have that loving nature where it's kind of, I don't think this Divi is anything about Jeff. Like this is all I think he's very, very selfless in a lot of the things he does. I know he puts a lot of his time into this project. I know you've done that as well, Nick. So, I mean, all the things that have come to fruition for this project, it's just been because you guys have worked really hard and stayed very consistent. You've done a great job at networking, and with being the chief information officer, you've been able to pull together, in addition to everybody else on the Divi team, pulled together all these different partnerships and all these different people. And I think it's a great thing, and it's very inspiring to know that these things can be done the way that you guys have done it, and do it in a legitimate way, and not try to, like you said, the organic growth thing I think is very important. I mean, I'm experiencing that with my channel as well. There's a lot of things I could do to proactively do things to get more subscribers, but I like the organic natural growth because the quality over quantity, I think, is so much more beneficial in general than going the other direction and just getting numbers.
100%. Numbers don't drive you forward necessarily. It's your community is what drives you forward. And I feel like that's something that Jeff definitely understood from day one. And we focused on that from day one. We tried to cultivate a community and a culture within that community that is welcoming, inviting, informational, educational, and not like if you go into our Telegram channel right now and start talking about Moon Lambos and stuff like that, no offense to Moon Lambo, I know you're helping host this, but they'll ask you to stop. Very politely. It's not like a lot of other crypto communities, and we've heard that from so many different individuals that it's just a different place. It's just a different place, and integrity is really the crux of what we're doing. It really doesn't have to be a scammy, aggressive industry. It can be something that actually succeeds at reallocating wealth to the people, which is like the whole point I got into crypto. And if that changed, like it's decentralization and actually providing an opportunity to people that wouldn't have it. That's why I'm in it. And if that ever changed, I'd probably.
Well, Moon Time says sorry that I'm not sorry.
Hey, we all want to go to the moon. Don't get me wrong, but
Anna says that perfection can't have deadlines, and Crypto Phoenix wants to know where they can get that cool Divi shirt that you got there.
Yeah, you can find this on divithreads.com. There's a bunch of cool designs up there, all designed by me, actually.
Nice.
And thanks. And
You're
if
good
you pay
at
with Divi, yeah, shameless plug. If you pay with Divi, you can save 10% on your order. So cool use case there.
Very nice. There's one thing that you mentioned, if I can go back before we move on, about the WhatsApp client. And then Chris, you mentioned doing something in a legitimate way, which is the keyword here. And actually, it seems that some things that you are doing, you might achieve what Telegram couldn't, because it was one of the major cases, because they were aiming at a very like an amazing thing, but there was some regulatory issues where the project couldn't move forward. And it seems that at least some of the features that you have, you might actually achieve what they couldn't. And I just wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on collapsed Telegram project? I mean, the Messenger is still very big, but they're a crypto project. What do you think like is different in what you're doing, and why it didn't work, and why it might work with you?
Well, I think Telegram and Facebook have had good intentions potentially with what they were trying to do with their chat clients. Telegram, they raised $1 billion for like no reason. I don't understand why you would need $1 billion to do what they were doing. And I think that brought so much attention to them that it was like almost doomed to fail from the start because of all the ICO drama. I mean, we've seen, EOS, right? Had to pay a huge fine.
It wasn't huge. It was 1% of what they earned.
Well, yeah. Huge to the average person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nothing from what they raised. But all, these projects, what did Google start with? $1.5 million, Amazon $1 million. Like, you don't need 30 million or $1 billion to start a project. So I think that put a lot of negative light on them in the eyes of the regulators. And then they started
challenging everything too. Like when everything started going to a head and there was mention of proceedings, it was like, bring it. It was like, you really want to do that to SEC when you're not exactly doing things the right way?
Exactly. So I think, and you had a security token podcast, so you understand probably the framework and the Reg A plus and all of those things a lot better than most people. But I think the guidelines really weren't even clear, even when EOS was doing their raise. Certainly not when a lot of the 2017 ICOs were doing their raises. So not having the proper guidance from the regulators and then being attacked by them was probably not great. But I think, like I said, there's nothing wrong with what they were trying to do. The intentions were there. And the same with Facebook. Facebook now, we're a WhatsApp channel partner, and they actually are allowing us to do what we're doing. We're going to integrate our fiat options as well as Bitcoin, Litecoin, and all the others within WhatsApp, which is what they were trying to do in Brazil and got shut down like immediately. There's too much visibility. And if it's not adapting, right? It's just forcing the hand way too much. If they would have just organically let it, kind of come out and not made a huge deal out of everything, maybe it would have been different, but maybe not. Who knows?
This brings us back to the point what you also mentioned, that even if some people weren't hearing about you, although you've been around for quite a while, they have not been around for so long, but so many people heard about them that it actually became the problem. So I think it also highlights you as a very positive case in comparison to that. So hopefully, like, some things that they were trying to achieve, we will actually see in Divi. But yeah, that's what I wanted to ask around that.
Well, it should be a really good example too of letting you know how not to act if you look at how some of these projects have handled themselves. So I mean, it's a really good example of what not to do. And a really big thing is to not just bring a lot of attention to yourself and just be boastful, because I think when you're bringing that attention of what you're doing, I mean, when you look at some of the SEC's proceedings and stuff like that, when it came to trying to classify what Bitcoin and Ethereum are and whether or not they are securities, technically Ethereum would have been a security, but they were giving it, and I think they're going to do this with a lot of projects. They're going to try to give people a grace period to get their projects to be completely decentralized.
Right.
So that way it won't fall under the security. And I know that I think they just got rid of that that antiquated 1930s stuff that they were using with the SEC finally. So now we're moving a little bit more forward. So I think that had someone like the Telegram people, was that Ton or was that Graham?
That was Graham, I think.
Okay. I mean, had they done things a little bit more differently, I think that they could have been more successful. But when you're boasting what you're doing and you're being arrogant, and then you're challenging the people who run the financial system, not just,
well, again, they're running on hype, you know, and we actually, the SEC commissioner is actually in favor of crypto. She said that they want to build a framework around this new technology. She understands that the technology is going to exist. We have central bank digital currencies already being talked about. Issuance will probably happen within the next 5 to 7 years of the first central bank digital currency. Like, it's obviously going to be a thing. But riding hype and like trying to make huge waves and stuff like that with regulators is never, it's just, you're just asking for it. It's like going out naked in the street and shooting off a gun. Like, what do you think is going to happen to you? You know, it's just not. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think I'm trying to see if anybody has any more questions, because I know we are going to be wrapping things up here shortly.
I have one. I'm sorry.
Moontime did say that China will launch a digital yuan much sooner. And I think there was a central bank digital currency. And if you haven't looked into it, Nick, look into the JP Morgan consensus partnership. But,
I did. Yeah, I was reading that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Xenia, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I have another question, if I can. It's technical again. What is your opinion on like custodial versus non-custodial wallets? Because that's obviously like, it's also a big part of DeFi, like when like non-custody, and where you're the only person who can actually like access, who controls your own funds. And I think I know like where your choice would be, like looking at the project, but I'm just interested in knowing what are the advantages and disadvantages of both models, and will there be actually a domination of one of them, or we will still have both and people will be able to choose?
Well, I think, you know, personally, I will always use non-custodial wallets. But I believe that when it comes to commerce, business to business operations, there needs to probably be some custodial solution, because your average mom and pop donut shop isn't going to learn how to back up their seed phrase. It's just not going to happen. And if we want to adapt to that, if we want, you know, cryptocurrency to be used in commerce, whether it's a stable coin, a CBDC, whatever it is, it can't be, they can't just lose their phone and lose all their money, because that's their livelihood. So I believe that there will be custodial solutions. I just, on a personal level, will never use them.
Yeah, so on a company level as well.
Yeah, but I think, you know, our wallet will always be non-custodial. We may, if we start getting into the commercial space more, you know, offer that for businesses or whatever, or maybe in the future we offer, you know, one or the other. Which direction do you want to go? Obviously, laws will change things. I can't tell you if one will be dominant, or if one will, you know, completely eradicate in a you know, VHS Betamax way. But you know, time will tell on that.
Well, if you think about this too, with the world, just the mainstream, I mean, everything is already kind of in one direction. So you can already see like where everything's going when it comes down to like the future of everything. And so it's very interesting. It's very interesting times to be alive. It's very interesting with everything that's going on, from, because last week we talked about the digital dollar, talked about the Banking for All Act. It's you know, you can kind of see where we're headed into this digital future. You could see the UPS is talking about blockchain voting. You can see that they're talking about a digital dollar that's going to be the quantum financial system. You know that this is blockchain technology. I mean, the future's there, and you see where we're going. I mean, with the banks allowing for the custody part of cryptocurrency, and that kind of gets back, people in the mainstream really don't have a problem with custodial services. I get what you're saying, Nick, because not your keys, not your crypto. But if you're dealing with now a situation and where banks can custody cryptocurrencies for you, does that also mean that if the banks have an issue that the FDIC insurance is going to insure you? Does that give you a little bit more stability by having that custodial And I'm not a big fan of custodial services, but there are people who like to have their hand tied.
100%.
Or not their hand tied, but their hand held is what I meant to say. So I mean,
well,
for those people who like to have their hand held, you know, we got to have those choices for them, because there are some people that don't want to take that personal responsibility for themselves. Like the whole idea of be your own bank is really take responsibility for yourself, and a lot of people aren't ready for that. We've talked about that a lot.
That's a niche, you know, like, and it's you could almost make the argument that niche is tapped out. And you could almost make the argument that even the niche that it's tapped out is still using custodial services primarily to store their crypto. Exchanges are the biggest use case for crypto. So, I mean, there's clearly a need, and where there's a need in a market, it will be filled, bottom line.
Yeah.
But I think there'll still be people like you and me who want to use non-custodial services too.
And I think also the last thing I'll add to that is that the fact that banks are going to allow the custody, I think the banks are going to be doing a lot to educate the general public, because it's going to be their responsibility since they're custodying these assets for them. So all we really had to do is just go in and explain people the difference of custodial versus non-custodial and having possession of your private keys. So it kind of makes the education end a little bit easier.
It's true. Very true.
So Xenia, did you have any final thoughts or any last questions before we do wrap this thing up?
I think I pretty much asked everything that I was interested in, both as a co-host and someone who would watch this panel, to get more insights into the tech and just into your future plans. I think this was incredibly insightful. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. Yeah, I don't think I have any more questions for now.
Awesome. And for one, I mean, I knew Nick, but I had no clue who you were. So, I mean, I really enjoyed being able to meet you and have communication with you. You seem like a very open-minded person, and I enjoy having open-minded, like-minded people. I mean, this is my second time ever hosting anything for the Blockchain Center, and I've only really been involved in a couple panels prior to that. So I'm just kind of winging it as I'm going too. So.
No, we should definitely do more things together. And I have a twin sister who's my co-host at the podcast, but she's in different time zone now, so it's hard to get her on New York times.
You have a twin?
Yeah, we'll do more projects. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I have sisters that are twins, but I'm not a twin.
That's why it takes two, because we're two.
Awesome. Oh, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. You waited to the very end to reveal that part. That is classic, though. I love that. Well, Nick, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we wrapped up this live stream?
Well, first of all, thank you both and the Blockchain Center for having me on to speak at length about our project, Divi Project. For anybody who's interested in the wallet, please access diviwallet.com. And sign up for beta. We'll be opening beta to the general public pretty soon, so you want to be on that list. Other than that, find me on Twitter at NSET Productions. Find Divi everywhere at Divi Project. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on pretty much all the social media platforms.
And Divi's got a YouTube channel, and Divi has a podcast as well, so you guys can check that out. Myself, again, I'm Rice Crypto. Or I'm Rice, the host of Rice Crypto, the YouTube and library channel. I'm also the host of Rice Radio, the audio podcast that you can find. This has been another Thursday on the block. I do want to thank Blockchain Center. I'd like to thank Nick Spanos, Erica, Anna, Matt, and everybody involved in New York and Miami for everything that they're doing to try to help bring education to the cryptocurrency space and helping to build the distributed future that we definitely need to see in this world. So I encourage everybody to check out everybody's social media links of here that's talking, and make sure you're staying tuned for other future live streams. I know that there's lots of events that take place that the Blockchain Center does on their YouTube channel. So be sure you're subscribing not only to all of our channels, but also make sure you're subscribing to the Blockchain Center as well. And on behalf of Xenia and Nick Saponaro, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. I am Rice, and we are out. So Matt, go ahead.